of the Mimer in the middle of the page, line 13. We were speaking about the question that we also had in the previous Mimer, the Hemshach to, why does it begin with by David Alakimis, called Varma Ela by Ser Sadibris? Shem Alakim shows on a level that's very constricted and very limited. It's a level that has to do with Seder Ishtalfulas, such a degree that the Gematria Tebat's numerical equivalent of the word having to do with nature, because it has to do with the Chayiv that is enclosed in nature. Even human beings, Dayanim, could be called Shem Alakim. Malachim are called Shem Alakim. So that all shows on how low Shem Alakim is. Whereas the Torah was given from such a very high place. Not only was the Torah given from such a very high place, but even more so that the Torah is such a level that it's completely above and beyond Seder Ishtalfulas and Elam, Chai, etc. And in addition to that, we know that it's the whatever the speaker is, they have to be higher than the speaker. So that means that as high as Torah is, and we know it was the highest level of Torah, because it's talking about, especially since it was reported Zeta of El Yonim Leyedul Tachtoinim, so it's the highest level of Torah, completely removed from this world. And that was spoken by Elikim, meaning something higher than that level, spoken, and we're still calling it Shem Elikim. So that was the question that we elaborated on now, similar to what we had also in the previous mind. And in similar vein, the Rebbe is going to extend this question and other things that we find surprising, the physical, or the lowest level in comparison to the highest level. So again, line 13, page Ches. In a similar vein, we also find concerning the reward about Torah mitzvahs, by prefacing what there is to be understood about the reward. Though what's been foretold concerning the reward for Torah mitzvahs, these are physical rewards, and it's explained the Rambam. The main reward will be in the world to come. All Nevi'im, when they said their nevuos about what will be the reward or what will happen in the future, their nevuah was concerning the days of Mashiach, which can be described, which a Navi has perceived. When it comes to the world to come, no eye has seen it except for you. Meaning such a high level that defies description. Even the Vim have not perceived it. Begam Khan. So Begam Khan is Lakim Dafkin. The same thing over here where it talks about Olam Haba. It also used the term Ein Le'Ras Elakim Zulasefa, using again Shem Elakim. So we have this type of extreme. We have such a high level, and then we connect to the Shem Elakim. Then he goes on further. In a similar vein concerning the general brachas, that Yidden got a bracha. Where is the root of all brachas that Yidden get the brachas from? The Sharsham Birchas Yitzchak Yankiv, that the root is the brachas of Yitzchak Yaakov. And brachas Achi Nailus are the highest, most brachas. Therefore, they came that specifically from Yitzchak. The level of Gvuras. That the Yitzchak, the level of the might and strength of brachas, not Gvura as we often associate Gvura as in a level of constriction and limitation, but rather Gvura from the word might, that the brachas are coming in a very mighty and strong way. The Gambas and Nemar also in this it says, that Alekim will give you. That's the shortage of all the brachas comes from Yitzchak, brachas Yankov. And what did Yitzchak use as a term? Specifically, Alekim. Shem Alekim Davke, Vadegam brachas Eloshiyach Slamat Torah. The Rebbe says, not just okay, we give another example of where Shem Alekim is used in a very high way. but actually, V'yitin l'cha Elokim has to do with Matan Torah. I'm as all Chazal say al pasuk V'yitin l'cha Elokim. Chazal say on this pasuk of the bracha of Yitzchak Yaakov V'yitin l'cha Elokim. Say Shem Protia in Yonim Shabbat they actually enumerate the different brachas that Yitzchak gave to Yaakov. They connected with different aspects and components of the Torah. Kala Shemayim Zemik says when Yitzchak gave Yaakov the bracha of the dew of heaven, that's talking about Torah Shabbat Mishmane Ha'aretz, the Mishnah. When it talks about the fat of the earth, it's talking about Mishnayos, Reiv Dagan V'Sirosh, Tam V'Agoda, much grain and wine. That's talking about Gemara, Agadata, Balzen, Nemar, and all these brachas of the Torah that was promised by Yitzchak to Yaakov. It's still, as high as Torah is, it still says V'yidin l'cha Elokim. It uses the Shem Elokim as the gift. Matan Torah by Dabra Elokim, similar to what it says by Matan Torah. And Elokim spoke. So we see this again, this type of two extremes. We're talking about Elokim and we're talking about such lofty brachas. Top of faith test. We need to understand. Need in general understand what does it mean at all that Yitzchak had to give Yaakov a bracha for all these different details of Torah that the dew of heaven is talking about Mikra, Chumash, Tanakh, Shmani Aretz is talking about Mishnah, etc. Why did Yitzchak have to give him this bracha? Well, bracha means like something over and above and beyond. How they call it? The entire Torah was given by Hashem to the Yidden during the giving of the Torah. What was added in the bracha of Yidden L'cha? So what came that wouldn't have been given ordinarily by Matan Torah that Yitzchak give Yaakov bracha? In addition to what you can get from Matan Torah, I'm giving you something else. The idea behind this is when it says, I will give you from the dew of heaven, etc. Talking about those that press themselves, that put in effort in matters of wisdom. We had this also, Lashon, I believe, when we learning the Imach Kostam, talking about you are mailing Batoira through the toil and Torah. The idea of Dachkin by Raisa means going into deep examination of Torah, to toil in Torah. That's the novelty over the giving of the Torah. That is the uniqueness of the bracha that Yitzchak gave Yaakov, that he gave him something more than what would have been given by Matan Torah. In the idea of this going into depth in Torah learning, for the Milo Matan Torah, it's higher than the level of Torah that was given during the giving of the Torah. That of Shaman Azal, similar to what the Chazal said, that the back and forth discussion, arguments, not arguments, but the deep give and take of the Gemara was only given to Moshe Rabbeinu. Elam Moshe not but I am the son of all Yisrael, but Moshe was generous because of that he shared it with us as well. So we see there are things that were given by Matan Torah, and then there's extra above. So the Torah itself, and then there's Pilpula Deiraisa. That is something that was given originally to Moshe, and Moshe shared it with us. So in a similar vein, there is the regular part of Torah, which is given by the giving of the Torah, and then there's the Iyun in Torah. There is the deeper level of Torah that we could reach only because the brachas of Yitzchak to Yaakov. So then, line 13, he says, therefore, concerning this higher level of Torah, this deeper level of Torah, it says, and Elokim gave it, to give to you. Why is it used Shem Elokim? Ki Elokim, U'Bchinas Elam Ha'atzmi. Elokim, as we also mentioned in the previous mimer, that Elokim is referring to the essential concealment. We know Shem Elohim shows on concealment, but there's concealment because it goes so low that Hashem has to conceal himself. Then there's the concealment, like we spoke about last week, that Hashem is so high that's completely removed and concealed from us, and that's the Elohim. Not even but Torah Nimshul Helmas, the idea of the deep examination and in-depth learning of Torah comes from Hashem's essential concealment, umagia behelmatzmi, and it reaches Hashem's essential concealment. In other words, both the capability to do so comes from the level of Elikim ha'atzmi, the Helam ha'atzmi, and when I use that gift and I examine Torah in depth and I analyze Torah in depth, so I'm drawing down from the most deepest levels from the Helam ha'atzmi of Hashem. So, getting back to our topic, it's very nice then. Our problem with Shem Elohim, the Shem Elohim shows that it's so low. Now we see, Elohim, it's not so low, it's a Helam ha'atzmi, it's a very, very high level. The Rebbe insists on still asking the question, line 17, second paragraph on page test. Though the name Elohim that's mentioned over here is referring to that essential state of concealment, the intention over here is also to the literal name Elohim. Elohim, as it is the numerical equivalent to Gematria of the word Hateva, the nature. To such a degree that even judges and all matters, natural matters down here below, shows on the name Elohim, like we said, Elohim is in the word might, and he is the one that includes in him all the powers and all the capabilities of this world. So we see Elohim has to do with Eleh, it's the might of the earth, and to do with the physicality of this world. Like it's also understood from what Chazal said concerning when it says by the giving of Torah, that we heard that the Dibros from the Almighty. Of all expressions of Hashem, it uses the term Gevura. Other names that the Chazal used for Hashem that they could have used, but they said specifically Pia Gevura, it's talking about the might of Hashem. And over here, the emphasis is not on the Gevura part. In the previous mimer, the emphasis was more on the Gevura. Here it says, Pia Gevura Shamainu. We heard it from Gevura. The way it's grasped in the hearing of a physical ear. So again, we're having the highest, most levels, but we're dealing with the most physical, that we actually heard it, not perceived it, not understood it. We heard it with a physical ear. So again, the Rebbe is gathering many different examples where we see two extremes in Torah. The two extremes that's mentioned earlier in the name Elohim. We also find in the preparation already to the giving of the Torah from the perspective of the Eden, that the Eden had to do their preparation for the giving of the Torah. What was their preparation? They said, we will do before we will hear and understand. Concerning the Eden saying, we will do before we will understand. The pasuk says that the sincerity, simplicity of the straight ones will guide them, will lead them. In other words, Eden had this sincere and simple devotion to Hashem, and because of that, it guided them to say this amazing thing of Nasa before Nishma. I mean, what does this mean? Shebeglal says, because of their saying, we will do, and then we will hear and listen, understand. That's why they merited the giving of the Torah. The exactitude of the language over here is, we will do specifically, and then we will understand. It doesn't say we will fulfill what we hear. Specifically, we will do. Action and doing is the lowest power in the soul powers of a human being. Top of page Yud. So like explained in Tanya on the Pasuk, that everything you have done with Chachma to indicate that even the lowest level, Asisa, and Chachma are all the same by the Eibishter. Chachma is considered as low as action. But the main point is that Asiya is the example of the lowest type of action possible, the lowest type of level possible. So over here, we're talking about Nasa, the lowest level possible, even though it's Kaidam Nishma, which shows, as we soon explained, the highest type of devotion. Hainu, this means the Imi, Yashak Domus Nasa Nishma. Moiral Bitlachinaila, though the prefacing of Nas before Nishma indicates the highest, most level of Bittul, Bittul of Alarotzna, Bittul to the master of the will. Shemizbatel Mitziusa Lagamri becomes completely nullified from his existence. Misachdim Chinas Balarotzin becomes completely one with the master of the will, Shabbat love that he is nullified. It's higher than the will. That's the difference between saying Nasa before Nishma or Nishma Vanasa. If we say Nishma Vanasa, so then we're buttoned to the will. We hear what the will is, and then we are being mevatel ourselves to the will. Nasa before Nishma means that we don't hear any will whatsoever. We don't know anything. All we know is Hashem. If Hashem gives it to us, that's fine by us. If that's the Nasa, that's the bittul of the Balarotzen, of the bitl of the Yitzhak of Balarotzen, the highest most level. And that's higher than the level of Rotz. If it's bottom to the Balarotzen, which the Balarotzen is higher than the Rotzen, for sure, it's higher than all the Kaiches Pnimium. Because the Rotzen is higher than all the other Kaiches. Even though we're talking about such a high level of bittul, a bittul to the Balaros and to the master of the will, still in all we use the term Nasa. It indicates the lowest type of level because, like we said, it's the level of action. Another thing, in addition to seeing this type of two extremes in preparation for Matan Torah, now we can look at the general idea of Torah has the two extremes, and general and specifically the Aser Sadibris has the two extremes. The majority of the commands concerning the Aser Sadibris are very ordinary, simple type of commands. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in the Torah, very simple things that Hashem asked of us. Became still in all shayachim form shutim elul vayir dabayil har Sinai. These ordinary things, these simple things that are part of Aser Dibris, are connected with Hashem coming down har Sinai. It's a very powerful revelation that never took place. Up till Matan Torah was a decree that those above should not descend down here below. And during the giving of the Torah, Hashem descended on Har Sinai. And because there was such a great and powerful revelation, and this type of tearing up of decree of separation between the above and below, therefore there was this big tumult of the thunder of the flames, because the highest level of godliness met up now with the physical, and when it met up with that physical, it created this great havoc and this great noise and thunder and so on and so forth. Still in all, during this great and powerful revelation was said very ordinary things. So too concerning the sounds that took place during Matan Torah, though these sounds and the thunder was very great revelations, until in these sounds and so on is included the most highest type of revelations, as we mentioned also in the previous mimer. Still, since there was such a powerful revelation, they even mixed up the order how things are normally in a human being. That instead of usually by human beings, we see with our power of sight, with our eyes, and you could see things that are meant to be seen, and you hear that which is meant to be heard. But because the revelations of the sounds and the toilets were such a high level, So it turned around everything. That instead they saw what was heard and they heard what was seen. Became still enormous movement on the very fact that there was such a great revelation that it turned around the whole seder of the klaikas of a person. For this itself, it's obvious is that these sounds and these flames were also in the physical. That's the meaning that they saw what was heard, and they heard what was seen. What does that mean? Top of the page, they actually saw with a physical eye the sound. They heard with the physical ear the flames. So if that was so impacted in the physical world, so again we see this type of two extremes. We have this most unbelievable revelation from above, till it totally created havoc with the whole Seder Shtalshlus and the whole type of purchase of a person. And in that itself, it manifests itself here in the physical sense that you actually heard it and you actually saw it. So we see these two extremes in the giving of the Torah itself. Any questions before? Let's continue. Line 3, page Yudal. Who the idea behind this is the Achidush, the Matan Torah, who the novelty and uniqueness of the giving of the Torah is the Oz Nasa Shinri Begashmi Sa'il. That when Torah was given, the physicality of the world was changed. Though we say that the Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years, meaning it was something that has to do with the world, connected with the world, and it was here in this world. It was also existing in this world below before the giving of the Torah. Like it's brought down the Medrash called Pirkei Rabbi Lezer. Adam Rishon studied Torah. So to the tzaddikim following Adam Rishon also learned Torah. Chazal said, "Shekim Avram Avinu called Torah nitna." That Avram Avinu fulfilled the entire Torah prior to it being given. And there was never ceased yeshiva, meaning the Torah study, in from our forefathers, even Mitzrayim. The Kolshkin, and how much more so that it never ceased by the Ovis as well. Like it says, the Chazal say, Avram was a sage and he was sitting and learning yeshiva. Yitzchak was a sage and sitting and learning yeshiva. Yaakov Yaakov was sage and sitting and learning yeshiva. And it goes on further. It says, Yaakov sent Yehuda before him to Lahoides in the word Torah, I'm teaching before him in Goshen, which we know the Chazal say that means Yasid, Beis Medrash, Beis Eidah, to establish a place of study and a place of halacha. Not only before the giving of the Torah was there Torah study, there was also the fulfillment of the Torah in actuality. We actually did the mitzvahs. Abraham Kim called Torah, like they said, that Abraham Avinu fulfilled the entire Torah. Popular Eid of Tafshilin, even the Eid of Tafshilin, which is seemingly only at the Rabbanon, the type of Zayda, that when you want to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos, when it's a 2-day Yom Tov or a 3-day Yom Tov, and the only way you can cook it is if you make Eid of Tafshilin. Abraham Avinu also observed that. Ablaf became, but still in all, in the Matan Torah, there was still the not idea of the giving of the Torah. I know this means the Torah that they fulfilled did not affect a change in the physicals, despite the fact that all these generations had the Torah, but the world, the physicality was not changed by it and through it. How come? Because the aforementioned decree. Because then there was a decree that those above should not ascend below, and those below should not ascend above. Therefore, Meiser of the actions of the forefathers. Avram says that Avram Avinu, to fulfill the mitzvah of Haknosas Orchim, he actually did an action of, he actually ran to the cattle. Similarly, that Yitzchak did his avodah ruchnis through digging wells. Machos the Yaakov, in a similar vein, it said that the sticks that Yaakov carved out was similar accomplishments to what we do with tefillin. After you in an island, though there were very high matters that they accomplished with all of these mitzvahs that they performed. Like Paul Ushinu Bagashmi, they did not change anything in the physical. The Hainuch Adover Agashmi, the mitzvah, the physical item with which the others performed the mitzvah. Ignasa Inyan Shal Kedusha La'achri mitzvah did not become a holy item after the performance of the mitzvah. Why? Because the decree that those below cannot go up above, so therefore nothing, the physical, can become transformed, to become spiritualized. Only after giving the Torah in his batla, that the decree was nullified, and we were given the capability of those below to go up above. This physical low thing in which the mitzvah is fulfilled, becomes the matters that are used for holiness. Or a matter or an item of holiness, even after the doing of the mitzvah. That's the idea, top of page base, that those below can come up above. So that's the chiddush, that's the novelty that happened by Matan Torah only afterwards, after this whole tumult and after all of this exceptional type of crossing of the divide. Now that Rebbe is going to explain, now go back to the classic idea about one of the many things that we spoke about before, why Matan Torah dealt with very simple types of commands. Ois hey on page Yud-Bey. According to this, understood also why during the giving of the Torah were said ordinary things, simple things. The entire uniqueness of the giving of the Torah is Shas Matan Torah, from the giving of the Torah and on. The Torah is not something in heaven. Specifically descended down here below. How come? Fulfill the purpose to make a home for the Eibush down below. Is just like in the home of a person down here below. It says that the beauty and glory of a person is by being settled in a home. That the home adds to the glory and beauty of a person, stature of a person that lives in. So being hadirla is part of so too concerning the home that we made for the Eibush. It's added also, metaphorically speaking, to Hashem. How is it added? This we're also fulfilling the will of Hashem, that the actions of your hand He desires, that Hashem desires our actions. So therefore, when we make a home for Hashem, so we are now fulfilling the desire that Hashem had a desire to do these particular actions. Like Chazal say, that this became a pleasing spirit before me, that I said, and my will was fulfilled. Meaning that through my will was acted out, was performed, was done, so there now becomes a pleasantness for Hashem. So that's why we're saying that Hashem becomes beautified through his home, because his enjoyment and his pleasure and his desire was in us doing these actions down here. So therefore we are kaviyachol adding to Hashem through doing the mitzvahs down here. And that's why Matan Torah spoke about the most low things, the most down-to-earth things, because that's what causes the home for Hashem down here. That joining with the physical that was not there by the others, that makes the delight for Hashem and the beauty of Hashem.